In this video, I'm going to show you how to take this photo here and add some other photos and retouching to it to make something that looks more like it was taken at nighttime with a different background. All right, so we're going to start with this and try to do something that ends with that. All right, let's begin by getting the car off of the background. I'm going to use the object selection tool. It works pretty good, but there will be a few things that you want to do to it. So if I zoom in, you notice how it kind of didn't get the very top of the car. I'm going to go to select and mask. I'm going to put the view on overlay, and I like the color red, and I have my opacity at 90, and I'm going to get the third tool, make sure it's on plus, and I'm just going to get those very top edges of the car that got masked out. Not much to do to this photo. It did a pretty good job selecting the car automatically. Just a few spots here and there. All right, that is good enough. I'm trying to do this quick, so it might not be perfect. All right, now we want to copy and paste. So we have that on another layer now. And I want to use this background, but I don't want all those trees. I just kind of want the road. So I'm going to make a layer mask. So a layer mask, as you know, it erases things, but not permanently. You can change it if you erase something you don't want. So we're going to go on that layer mask and get a big brush, and we're going to paint. Well, let me put the opacity on 100. So I have a big soft brush, 250, opacity 100. And I'm just going to go and erase all this greenery. I do not want green. I want to keep it in the blues. All right, that looks pretty good. And then we're going to go to this layer here and do Control L. I want to darken this whole layer here. So I'm going to move this output levels. I'm going to move that right arrow all the way down like that, so it's pretty dark, and say okay. Now you can see I erased a little bit too much, so I'm going to go back to that, switch it to white, and put some of those dark shadows back in like that. All right, so let's get a different sky in there. You can see that the hood of the car kind of has these cool blue clouds. I want to get something like that in there, so I have got this picture here. I'm going to select the sky, Control C, and then go back to my car picture and do Control V and then Control T, transform. And I'm going to hold the Shift key so I can just kind of stretch this photo as needed. And I really like this clouds picture because I feel like it already looks like, with this motion that the clouds have, that it kind of looks like the dashboard. It gives it some cool motion. All right, and then I'm going to press the check mark. And I have another picture I want to put in here of these buildings. I'm going to do Control A, Control C. And I'm going to paste them in as well. And I'm going to do Control T and lower this so that it's lower on my page. All right, I want to erase the sky that's in that city skyline picture. I don't want to erase it, but I want it to be hidden. So I'm going to go on my layer mask that I made, and I'm going to get a brush, make sure it's on black, and I'm going to hit that so that I definitely see those awesome clouds in the background there. Okay, I'm going to get the green out of the car. You notice how it has that green reflection from before, and we don't want that. So I'm going to do Control J to duplicate it, and I'm going to do Control U and say colorize, and I don't want that, that's for sure. I'm going to get this steel kind of color like that and say okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to make a layer mask, and I'm going to paint black over the areas that I still want to show through. So I don't want the whole thing to look silvery. I want some of the natural colors from the picture to come through too, so it doesn't look too fake. But I just don't want that green yellow. See that green yellow over there? I'm going to go back and get white. If you accidentally erase something you don't want, just go back and get your brush. And we want to get rid of all this green color. All right, that looks pretty good. So let me show you a before and after. See how we have that green and yellow? We were able to get rid of it by just adding this other color. or this other car layer on top, using hue and saturation to kill all the green, and then just using a layer mask to paint only part of it because we don't want the whole thing in there. Okay, and I also want to get rid of some of these reflections that are coming all the way down. I don't want my car to look like it's floating on water, so I'm going to go on that layer there. I'm going to add a new layer and get, while I have my brush at this size, get some black and just go along the bottom so that it doesn't look like the car is floating on water, like maybe there's a road there, like it's in a parking lot. And I'm going to shift click both of those layers, maybe just move it down a hair. There we go. All right, that's looking pretty good. So one of the big problems that I see in here is that the car and the sky are too light. It needs to look like it's nighttime, and that's kind of the trickier part of this. So to do that, I am going to merge these two layers together. See, I have them shift click. I'm going to do Control E and merge them into one layer. And I'm going to duplicate this layer again, have another copy of it, and do Control U again. And this time I'm going to darken it. I'm going to darken it a bit too much because I'm going to use a layer mask again and erase parts of it. So go ahead and have it really dark like that. We're going to put a layer mask on here. And this time I want the opacity. This is very important, so pay attention here. Make the opacity of your brush a lot less this time, somewhere in the around 50, because we don't want it to be too strong. And you're going to get the brush to be big. I have mine at 600, opacity 48, and I'm just going to hit the, whoops, I need to get black. Hit the sides of this so that we still have some light coming through, but we just don't want it to be really light on the hood of the car. That was the problem before. So let's turn that on and off and see. So yeah, now the car looks darker like it should. And we also want the sky to look darker. But before I do the sky, I'm going to try putting in over here a fill or adjustment layer. And let me try a photo filter on the whole thing. Let's make this maybe a cooling filter. There you go, with some blues. Let's make the blue a little darker though, not so bright, and maybe bump up the density a bit. Maybe something like that. Let's go to layers here. I still think I want the sky darker, so I'm going to click on layer 2 and do Control L and maybe still darken the sky up a bit. And then down here where it says output levels, I kind of want to get rid of some of that white to make it more subtle, because it is nighttime. I want some of the clouds, but not too many. I think I'm going to go here. This is a layer mask on here. I'm going to try putting a little bit of black on here. Once again, I have my opacity turned down, so it doesn't have to be too strong. But I want to get my car kind of a little bit brighter. All right, I think that's looking pretty close. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to select the headlights on this car. So I'm going to go back to that layer. You can use whatever tool you want. I am a fan of lasso tool, and I'm not too bad at it. I hold the Option key while I go around to make some of my lines straight and some of them curved. And I'm using a Mac, so I say Option key, but I believe on a Windows it might be the Alt key. And no, this isn't perfect, but for the sake of this video, we're going to go with that. And now I want to get this other headlight here, so I need to hold the Shift key to select two things at once. So remember, if you're using the lasso tool, you'll want to hold the Shift key to get the other one. All right, so I got those selected. Copy, Control C, paste, Control V, and let's pull these at the very top because we are going to make them look like they're lit up. So you see they're on a different layer. Let's add another layer on top and get a pale whitish yellow like that. Again, big brush, not too big of an opacity. Opacity, I'm going to leave that how I had it set before and just do a couple of clicks here so that there's a glow from the light. Maybe keep it lower, a little smaller. Looks pretty good. I'm going to do another layer, and this time I'm going to get a whiter color, and I'm going to bump up the opacity because I really want this to be brighter. That looks decent. Now I'm going to make another layer, and this time I'm going to use the lasso tool again, but I think I will use the polygonal lasso tool this time. And then what I want to do is click and let go, click over here. What I'm doing is just kind of making a beam, and I got to go back and close that path and hold the shift key to get this side. Remember where you're starting because you'll have to end in the same place, and make another beam of light that's coming down here and close that path. And we're going to fill this, edit, fill, say OK, and deselect it, Control D, then go to filter, and we're going to blur it a bit. So use the Gaussian blur, and I have mine set on 12. I think I'll make it somewhere around 20 is pretty good, I think. All right, we are getting close, and then we're going to lower the opacity of this layer here so that it's not so strong. Probably something like that. Again, we need to make another layer because we want to go down here on the ground. So we're going to make this new layer just above that shadow there, and I'm going to go back to the little bit of a pale yellow, get the brush, and just highlight some light down here where the headlights would be lighting up the street there. I don't think that's that great. Let me use the eraser and erase some of that. It's a little too much. Okay, that's not horrible. All right, the last thing I want to do is just add a little bit of stars in here. And so let's go back and open up the stars that we had. Space. And we're going to select all, Control A, Control C, Control V. We're going to put the stars on the top. We are going to make it say lighten, and again a layer mask. Another layer mask. We're going to get black, get our brush, make the brush big, and just erase them everywhere except for at the very top of the sky. You don't want them to be all over your car and everything. All right, that was kind of a quick version of it, but you kind of get the gist on how to take the regular car that we had in the beginning and kind of make it look like it's nighttime and has a much more interesting background.